Hello and welcome back to another Warlords of Draenor video. This time we're going to be taking a bit of a look at the Bloodmaul Slag Mines. And just by the way, the reason some of the footage is going to be sped up is because I'm trying to get through the trash a little bit more quickly, just for the sake of brevity and ensuring that this video doesn't end up just being a long rambling mess, because no one particularly wants that. So then, this is the Bloodmaul Slag Mines, the very first dungeon that horde players will meet in Warlords of Draenor. It's available at level 90 and it's located in Frostfire Ridge. Of course, you can see we're killing ogres here, and ogres are the initial threat of Frostfire Ridge, so that's how it all ties into the lore. Of course, the very first place you'll end up in Warlords of Draenor is the Tanan Jungle. There's about a 30 to 45 minute long experience there, and then they shift you off to Frostfire, which is when you'll run into this place. Now, luckily enough, this was actually available on the Dungeon Finder, which was pretty handy. I actually didn't think that that would work on the alpha, but apparently that's all going strong, which was nice to see. And this dungeon is basically complete. We actually saw this at BlizzCon 2013, yes, 2013, and well, we saw a little bit of it, like a little sort of teaser, but this thing's been done for ages, I think, because there was no crashes. Everything was stable, I couldn't really see a single bug or imperfection. This just felt like something that could be put into the game right now and be a completely acceptable quality product. So anyway, let's talk about the trash. Basically, the trash is easy enough. You could see those flame guys there, the flame ogres, they kind of did a little frontal cone. Other than that, you're going to have no trouble with them. Overall, the instance is not particularly hard, but bear in mind that it is the very first, Warlords of Draenor dungeon, so they're probably not going to make it humongously hard. Plus, it's at level 90, so it's not going to be crazy. Now, this is the very first boss. As you can see there, I did point out that there's a quick overview in the dungeon journal to the rest of my team, but you didn't really need to know that, honestly, for this boss. One thing that was odd to me is how quickly he went down. I mean, he really did lose his health rather fast. These bosses are probably not completely tuned. The classes right now aren't 100%, so obviously because of that, you'll maybe see some little inconsistencies or just numbers that are a little bit strange. So this boss's main ability is that he does a big smash. Big smash is not really a problem. He also does that. I'm not 100% sure what that ability does, but it is completely just not really worthy of discussion at this point because it doesn't do anything. And then of course all these captured miners run in, but honestly the captured miners don't do that much damage. They're not particularly problematic whatsoever. So this is really the usual affair. You stand out of the crap, you kill the boss, and away you go. It really is that easy. Still though, it's a fun enough fight, and I'd be interested to see what extra mechanics they add in Heroic. Especially also, if they can make these ads a little bit more problematic, or perhaps even give some of the ads their own mechanics. I think that would be cool. Maybe the challenge mode version of this dungeon could be particularly difficult. Maybe they could, really try to ramp it up. Anyway, so that is the very first boss dead. Let's jump into our crazy time warp machine. There we go, and that'll just boost us through the rest of this trash at 300% speed. You can see the map there of this place. Now overall, it is a long enough dungeon. Unfortunately, we have a little bit of a misunderstanding here. The tanks run off and this guy pulled, but whatever. And now the full-on thing took 27 minutes. This video should be cut down to around 12. And because, look, no one wants to watch me kill trash for 20 minutes, that would be deadly boring. Bosses are far more interesting. So, yeah, it was around 27 minutes long. Overall, the trash felt sort of punchy and fun to deal with. There was at least lots of visuals going on, even if the trash itself wasn't particularly crazy in terms of mechanics. I think a few of the mobs later on do have some more mechanics, though. And perhaps, on Heroic mode, if the Conal Breath that I was talking about were to do a little bit more damage, then I guess you could have some interesting and actually rather engaging trash encounters. So moving on, just looking at the aesthetic of this place, I think it's one of the better looking dungeons I've seen anyway. I love the scale of the whole thing. It's funny, looking at the sides, you can nearly see these little hovels, but of course then you realise that they're hovels for ogres. They're actually pretty damn big. It's a cool place, and it's very, well, I don't want to say vibrant, it's bright. It's got a lot of fire in it, and that works. It's quite well. It's got this whole feeling of being underground with a lot of torches. It's all torch lit, and then all the lava, and whatever that does to the color palette just makes it really nice and warm and pleasant to be in, I suppose, which really is, well, it's pleasant for us to be in, not so much for all the prisoners inside, but we don't really care about them because they don't actually exist. So here's some more interesting trash. That guy makes these little pillars which float around, and obviously you don't want to get caught in the floating pillars because you're not a dingus. So that's the situation with that. Yeah, lots of spell effects going on here. Perhaps a little bit hard to see what was going on sometimes. You've got these little flame vent things as well, so it's probably best not to go in them, but honestly, it's all pretty trivial when you're on normal mode. That's fine, I suppose. Maybe the level 100 normal modes will be a tiny bit more challenging, but I wouldn't expect it. Level 100 normals are probably going to be just as hard as the Miss Pandaria Heroics, which is fine, because the Miss Pandaria Heroics don't really deserve the name of heroic. So we're on to another boss here. And what he does is he does this little magma barrage thing. You don't want to stand in that. Also, by the way, if I really kind of derp out during this fight, it's because, well, right now I've been up for over 24 hours. I was about to go to bed, I got an email from Blizzard, and, well, I had to go and cover the alpha, didn't I? So, yeah, if I derp out, then that's the reason why. I mean, there was times when I was actually just even fighting mobs questing where I just kind of spaced out for 30 seconds, came to again and realized I was dead. It was a very strange experience. So this guy spawns those elementals that you saw there. I'm pretty sure those elementals have some sort of ability that you're supposed to interrupt, but we just killed it instantly, so it wasn't really that problematic. But, like, from a DPS perspective, that's essentially all I've really had to deal with. I know, of course, this is just, like, tanking one of these things is no bother, and healing is just the case of, is there a bad thing? Then dispel it. In that case, or, you know, just heal people. There's no real healer or tank-specific mechanics from what I can tell. Apart from in the final boss, but we'll get onto that a little bit later. So after you've killed the ogre guy, he turns into a big elemental, which spawns even more elementals. The smaller elementals that he spawns will cast Magma Barrage, which was that thing that was shooting magma at us. Of course, we don't want that, so we want to kill them or interrupt them or do whatever. You don't want to nearly stand in front of the spiky thing like I did, and he does this thing. It's a little bit like what Commander Throgrock, whatever that guy does, in the Galakras fight. So he just, yeah, that thingy that you just saw. It's not nice. I wouldn't recommend standing in it. The good news is, no one did, which is nice. So, yeah, that's essentially it for the fight. He does his magma impact, where he just throws down that fireball. He spawns his ads, which throw fireballs at you. He does that thingy where he makes a cone, and yeah, that's it. A pretty easy fight, but there's definitely potential there. I think they could perhaps make a slightly more difficult fight. So I'm going to skip out some footage here. You can see the cinematic, which is just showing you the route to this bridge. So rather than just showing you me killing all the trash to get to what you've already seen, I'm just going to use this handy little cinematic as a segue to the bridge. Thank you, Blizzard. You made my life easier. So yeah, another elemental has appeared, and boom, look at that. Through the power of magical teleportation and video editing, we are now at the third boss of the instance. This is a fun guy. Look, it's not a complicated boss, but it's just meant to be a bit of a fun one. So, you may be wondering what happens. Well, we started fighting, and of course you can't run past him or anything like that. He's got a big old firewall there. You don't want to stand in these, as I found out. They do 20,000 damage, which is around like a third of your health. Not a third, maybe a quarter or a fifth, depending on what sort of gear you're at. So you don't want to stand in these. Yeah, he throws fireballs at you, and that's most of it. There's also Heat Wave, which is basically just the dot that your healer is going to want to take care of. That's fine. Once again, not really a giant problem. And, of course, he also then throws fire on the ground. Obviously, we have been trained for this. I apparently haven't been trained for this because I was being clipped by it. I was silly. But, yeah, you don't want to stand in the fire. You don't want to get rolled over by the balls. And that's essentially it. This guy is pretty easy. Still, though, I think that there's definitely potential for an interesting fight here. I love fights that have got really... what would the word be? You know, mechanics like rolling balls that you have to move away from, or things like that. I love the fights that are very kinetic in their nature. They involve movement, they involve you dodging things and being sort of active. I mean, sure, at times it's nice to have those fights that are nothing but underground systems, but a fight like this is definitely quite visceral. It's very easy to understand, but it's also kind of fun. So, this one's actually a win in my book. I thought it was nice. In fact, this whole dungeon's a win in my book. Now, this is one of those instances where I spaced out and ran into a wall. I remember sort of doing this. Yeah, I don't know what's up with that. I'm going to go and make a lot of coffee after I make this video, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about garrisons and some quests. Then I'm probably going to, upload things and collapse into a heap. So, let's turn on the magical warp speed again and blast our way through some mobs. This guy's one of those Gron dudes, or Agron, whatever. I think this is an Agron. They are a slightly different form of Gron, I would imagine. And they are not particularly hard. You just kill them. I suppose they're kind of beefy with their health pool, but no one really cares. They go down nice and simple. If we could just skip on, past the video at faster than 300%, then it would help my commentary. Anyway, so with these guys dead, we've just got a few more things to clear out before we can get to the final boss. Once again, we've got these guys which do their little flame cone thingy-majig. Of course, we didn't really get to see that because they died so quickly. There you go, and I stood in it. It didn't particularly do that much damage, which is a little bit disappointing. There's also a thing in the ground there which you don't want to stand in. Okay, so for the final boss, well, this guy's actually a ton of fun. The main thing that he's going to do is summon some elementals. And of course he puts crap in the ground. Guess what the strategy for that is? Don't bloody well stand in it. So, he puts his crap on the ground, and then he will, at some point, spawn an elemental for us. There we go. So, this elemental will try to go into the forge. We don't want that to happen. Why? Because it gets pumped up and gets angry and does bad things to us, so we stop that from happening. That's it. It's a very simple fight, honestly. Yeah, I suppose this one is definitely interesting in that it could be sort of hectic if they were throwing more things on the floor at you, and perhaps if you're actually at the stage where your DPS meant that killing these adds was a bit of a struggle, but currently it just isn't the case. So, let's keep on fighting here. He's nearly dead, but I think, is this possible, the extra phase at the end? I may be herp-derping. Anyway, so, not a giant problem so far, as you can see. Your chap's about dead. Once again, spawning a few elementals, and we don't care. They are perhaps undertuned at the minute, because our gear isn't particularly good. We're all just in regular questing gear, and there is no challenge here at all with those mobs. So, a little bit unfortunate. And, oh, no, that's him dead. Yeah, very easy boss fight, honestly, but I can imagine it being quite entertaining if the DPS check actually mattered on those ads. Anyway, so that's it for me. It's a quick little look at the Bloodmaul Slag Mines. It's looking like a fantastic instance. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Stay tuned to the channel for all the latest Warlords of Draenor coverage. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.